Very good. So, Keveney, thank you for coming and I came to you, but thank you for having me for a Jane in the Jungle interview. I'm glad to have you in the jungle, and at last, we've talked about it for a while.
Yeah.
What I noticed about you, what I really loved about you when I first met you was your story is so fun. It's so phenomenal. And so I was going to have you go ahead and introduce yourself to the jungle, what it is that you do, and also give us the background on your story, like how you ended up there.
Sure. So I fuse universal law and peak performance to unlock full potential. And what that really means is I help people to reach a higher version of themselves. So I help them figure out what needs to be tweaked and what beliefs need to be cleared, what energy needs to be moved. And then my story, so as a kid, I saw energy, I moved energy. I had kind of what you'd call X-ray vision with pets. So I could see inside their bodies, I could see congested energy. And fast forward.
That's called animal whisper in many circles, correct?
Yeah.
That would be, okay.
Definitely an animal intuitive, for sure.
Okay.
And so fast forward, 25 plus years, and I was an attorney in corporate. I practiced law for about a decade. And one night, middle of the night, I heard a scream, and one of my dogs had a massive seizure. And I instantly saw, felt, heard the entire rest of the morning play out. I knew what the vets were going to tell us. I knew what they were going to say was wrong with her, and I knew that that was not truth, that really she was picking up my energy, my stress, my husband's energy, his stress. He's in corporate finance.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew that it was what would save her was not all of the medical stuff, which they said they wanted us to put her down, to put her to sleep. And I just kept hearing, do what you did as a kid. And so I came home. I brought her home against vet's orders that night. I took some vacation I had never used, and I spent 10 days with her. And on the 10th day, she popped up, and she acted like a puppy and lived another 2 years to be 13 and never had another seizure. And I decided I'm getting the heck out of corporate.
Yeah.
And so I started to make a plan.
Yes, so you were practicing law, and were you enjoying it?
No.
Because that's part of your story that I thought was really cool,
Yeah,
how you told your story.
I definitely, I did all sorts of, I did employment law, I tried, high-level HR director, corporate compliance, oil and gas. I loved the work I did I did a lot of pro bono work with immigrant children. And so I loved that work. That was very satisfying. I knew I was making a difference. I did not like the 9 to 5 or much longer than that, right? The corporate grind. And my health was really suffering. My relationships were suffering. Everything in my life was breaking. And although it looked like I had created a lot of success, inside everything was fractured. And that's really most of the women and men that I work with. They're people who have created a lot of success in their life, whether they have very successful careers or, whatever that is, yet internally things are fracturing.
Yeah. You gave your presentation that I was present at, which you did an amazing job, amazing job. You just really articulated what it is to work with energy in a way that people who'd never been in the conversation for, or have previously even thought of it as woo-woo. One of the things you said is that you're not woo-woo. And so what I've noticed, this is some kind of way that coaches now, especially if they're law of attraction type of coaches, are throwing people off, or not throwing them off, but being able to engage them really is the best way to say it. Being able to engage them by going ahead and cutting off the whole woo-woo factor by saying you're not woo-woo when you really are pretty darn woo-woo, okay?
Yeah.
I'd like for you to talk more about your energy background. Actually, first, tell me when, so you're in corporate America, you're a lawyer, you have this experience with your dog, and things start to break open for you, or open up for you. Now, had you already taken your first woo-woo course, or were you just the beginning of your woo-woo journey?
So I've always, I guess, I came in with the woo, I think.
Yeah.
I've always.
Well, you were talking to animals.
Yeah. I've always seen energy. I've always, when Hurricane Harvey happened, I went to different shelters and I would just go up and down the, like the aisles of the dogs that had been abandoned. And I was volunteering in a shelter that was owner surrender. So they knew the stories of the animals. And so I would just go up without looking at anything and talk to the animals and ask, who did you live with? Where did you live? And I just like really practiced that way for the animal stuff. And it was amazing. I would always get like, there's children, there aren't children. It was always spot on. And I say I'm not woo-woo in the sense that I definitely fuse spirituality, universal law. I've studied Vedanta philosophy is really a lot what I've studied. And then I fuse that with cutting edge science. I geek out on, quantum physics and lots of, how the brain works, peak performance, those kind of things. So I fuse the two.
Can you share some stories without saying the person's name or worrying about them seeing this interview?
Absolutely.
And maybe you've already got their permission to share their story with.
So my very first client was someone who I knew on more of a friend basis, and she was living in Houston, and she was very not happy in Houston. And she was originally from Boston, and she wanted to move back there. And she'd been here for maybe 3 years, but she hadn't lived in Boston for about a decade, if not a little more. And she came to me and she said, in 30 days, I want to move back to Boston. I want to sell my house in West University, Houston. I want my husband to get his old job back at like a higher salary as though he never left the company, basically with, 10, 12 years tenure. I want my daughter to get in the best schools. I want all these things, and I want to do it in 30 days. And we did it in about 45. But it was, she did a lot of, I hold the space, and she did a lot of the work.
Well, right.
Yeah. And there were some things from her past, some trauma that she had experienced that I saw intuitively and was able to kind of ask her about, and we were able to heal and take some action to kind of end that chapter and give her new energy to move forward.
Oh, let's talk more about that.
Okay. Yeah.
So, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so woo-woo. Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So first of all, so you said that you picked up on it, or you intuitively felt it. So talk more about that. So when you work with a client, you really do tap into them.
Yeah, with her, so if you talk about like the clairs, the sense, the seeing, the knowing, the hearing, the feeling, I got them all, right, going on at different times, or sometimes all the same, hopefully.
So those are all the different ways that you can pick up information, whether you sense it, or you actually hear audibly sort of information, or you get it dropped in your head like a little message. So that's I want to say that because some people won't know right away when you say clairsense and all that. But that's all the different ways that you can pick up information. Someone might call it being psychic. Others we call it being intuitive, so that people don't get freaked out when we say we're psychic.
And I talk about it in terms of, I believe that the intuition really is a spiritual faculty that we all have.
Yes.
And some of us come in with it a little stronger and have more or less layers, from society of whether it's good or bad or accessible. Right. But we can really all
develop it.
The more clear we become, the more clear our intuitive channel becomes.
Yeah. I like that.
So
that's good.
with this particular client, I actually saw three, I think they were three red roses. Right, like I just kind of saw them, like not the way you would see you and I looking at each other, but I kind of just saw the energy of the roses in her field, in her energetic field. And then there was congestion and energy just went straight to her, like where her uterus would be. And so I told her, and she just started crying. And it turns out that years ago, she was pregnant with triplets. And towards the very end of the pregnancy, she suffered a life-threatening condition, and none of the babies made it.
Oh my gosh.
And part of her, when she went through grief counseling and therapy at the time, part of the process was to plant a rose bush for each baby,
Oh.
which she had never done.
So she needed to get that complete.
Yeah, so we planted some flowers in her garden.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and that was kind of the start of her being unhappy, not being able to settle, moving around the country.
Oh,
and
opened up a
she
lot
was
of
continuing
insights.
to carry a lot of that congestion and trauma with her.
Okay.
So,
Cool. All right. So then what happened?
So we did a lot of clearing, did a lot of work on beliefs. I ended up working with her child, her dog, her guinea pig, the whole family. And we just, really got clear, got their energy clear, cleared the space, set intentions. A lot of times we don't really know exactly what we want. And so we have to get clear to even figure out what it is we want.
And so you did that kind of work with her as well.
Yeah. So we did a lot of energy work, a lot of, I believe that our external world is a perfect carbon copy of our internal energetics. So if we're not happy with something out here, the only place to look is us, right?
Thank you for that truth. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. What would be your, if you could stand on the rooftop and shout out your core message to the world, what would you say to the world in a sentence or two?
Yeah.
Or a word even. What could be one word?
I mean, I think harmony, truth. There are no coincidences and miracles are real.
Oh,
yeah. So I think we need to, the litmus test is if you think about nature is harmonious, orderly, disciplined. If we want to, that is our natural state also. And so if you're seeing chaos, that is not natural. That is not truth. And so we have to be like the universe. We have to be disciplined. We have to be orderly. We have to create harmony, right? For me, balance isn't real. Harmony is real.
Oh, that's good. I like that. Okay, great. So who is your biggest female mentor real quick? And then we'll...
Yeah, so definitely, and I was thinking a lot about this when you sent me the questions, but
good.
For sure my grandma on my mom's side.
Okay, what about her?
So she's one of the main characters in my book, so that's kind of fun. But she lost my grandfather when I was 6 months old, and so she lived 33 plus years by herself. She was someone who, she dealt with major health challenges. She went completely blind in her 60s, had congestive heart failure for over 10 years. And she just, no matter how bad things were, she would wake up in the morning and she'd say, well, I can choose to feel the pains and, be upset and be sad that I'm alone, or I can be like, great, I can still put one foot in front of the other, and that's what I'm going to do. And so she was just this complete safe place for me to land, and she really was very neutral, right? So not someone not trying to fix it or just the person that could just listen and not have to solve.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Have you seen the Mr. Rogers movie?
I haven't.
Okay, because he was a master. I didn't know that about him. I mean, I was watching him after Sesame Street.
Yeah.
And then my mom would start making fun of him, and she'd be like, oh, God, I can't take it. He's so corny. And she'd, a lot of times just turn him off and say, go play in the yard. Yeah. And so I kind of had this idea of, all these, Saturday Night Live, they were making fun of him and everything. He was a complete master. The guy was a master. And one of the things that he was known for doing when he would do public speaking and the mentorship that he did, which no one really saw all that. They just saw Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
But what he would do is he would have people stop and take 1 minute to think of the people in their lives that gave them their being. So you just...
Yeah, that's awesome.
Great example.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I heard when you shared that story about your grandma. Was oh, she gave her a way of being.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you know how you hear the universe will kind of give you a little nudge, and I mean the universe doesn't test or reward. The universe just is. We test ourselves.
Yes.
And sometimes it's time for us to step into a different way, and so we kind of get the little messages, and when we don't take action, we get the 2x4. And my story really, when my grandma passed away in 2014, that is when I was with her when she passed, and I saw the energy leave her body before she was clinically dead. And so she's actually been, that was kind of my 2x4, right? And so a lot of my gifts and a lot of the things I knew as a kid really started opening back up when she transitioned.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
So she's been a teacher on this side and now a teacher from the other side.
Yes, so. She stays close to you, does she?
Yes, and she pops in oftentimes. You know, lots of other intuitives will see her around me, describe her.
I think she just popped in. I feel her. So, women over 50 who are in corporate still, and they're thinking about taking the leap from corporate, or maybe they just lost their job, got booted out, because that's what happens a lot after you turn 50 in corporate, and as a woman, but also as a man. What would be your best, what message would you like to give them in terms of going from corporate to entrepreneur?
Kick the corporate grind and go beyond the corporate salary. That's what I help people do.
Well, that's great. Is that like your part of your brand?
I say it a lot.
Say it again.
Kick the corporate grind and go beyond the corporate salary. Yeah. You know, for me, and I had, lucky or not, I had a corporate finance husband who said, yeah, I support you in whatever you do, but I expect you to replace your corporate salary the first year.
Oh, rough one.
And I
tough customer.
Well, and it was funny because I completely went into, and realistically, you know, we could happily live on his salary. It wasn't that we needed to have the 2 salaries. I was kind of bonus anyway. But he said to me, he said, because I went into the story of it takes time to build a business. I don't have clients. I'm not from here. Like all the story.
Yeah.
And he just looked at me and he said, wait, what business are you going into? He said, helping people step outside of the box and outside of the story and do away with all the beliefs. And I was like, oh, crap. Right? So, I mean, that's what and I've gone on to, you know, my first year, I more than replaced my corporate salary, and 3 years in, I've tripled it. So, I really believe when we're doing what we're serving in the way we're here to serve, that everything flows, including the money.
Yeah, wow, that's powerful. That's really good. We could end this interview right now on that note. That is really powerful. Thank you for sharing that. So you're so great. I knew interviewing would be just awesome. I really did. So 20 years ago, what would have helped you, or what would you might wished someone had told you, informed you of, that would have helped you today, you know?
I think be present.
Ah.
Right? Just this moment, the past is for learning, the future doesn't exist yet. Be present.
Yeah, and then to understand what that means. I mean, I would have wanted someone to, like, when I was young, no one knew what that meant. You know, as a parent in my generation, that's the main thing we were trying to do for our kids was be present for the kids. That meant emotionally present. Then there's being present for yourself, being present for others, you know, being present for whatever it is you're doing that's in front of you, the task at hand, like being present. I have a theory that all accidents happen when we're not present.
I would agree.
I know, I figured you would.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, I mean, for me as a kid, I look back and I was an only child. And so there were neighborhood kids that I was really close with, but my best friend and my playmate was my dog. And I would play games where I thought at the time it was like mind control. Really, I was just sending messages. She was a very cooperative student. But I would line up my toys and I would, you know, really be super present in the sense of just laser focus on one thing. And I would line all my stuffed animals and my baby dolls and different things up, and I would just send her, you know, a thought or a picture of a certain stuffed animal or a certain baby doll, and then ask her to go get that one. And so that was, you know, and I think we look to our animals. Yes, they take on our energy and our congestion, which can cause a lot of behavioral and physical issues. And if you think about a dog playing ball, there's no worry, is the ball going to get away from him? It's just laser focus, catch the ball, live in the moment. And so I think we can learn so much from our animals. And that's where, you know, if somebody would have told me 20 years ago, just be like the dog.
Yeah.
You know, now I say be like the universe, but just, you know,
Yeah.
be like the dog.
Yeah.
Would have gone
Except
a long
for
way.
minus the part where you go.
Yeah, right. Minus the panting. But just kind of live for and in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean, you could also see that in babies.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and some, you know, I've read a lot of different things. Some people say babies don't manifest. Some people say that they're instant manifesters.
Yes.
You know, you cry, you get a bottle, you get your
Yeah.
you know, pants tear.
Yeah.
Like there's different schools of thought. But
Yeah.
I think, you know, the thing really to take away is if it doesn't feel good, it's not real. And so I spent a lot of years in college, law school, corporate, where all of the things that I was going through that I saw in the 3D were real to me, when in fact now I think none of that was real, and what is real is the stuff that we can't see and touch.
Yeah. So we're going to end on a woo-woo note.
Perfect.
No, actually we're not. So, Keveney, when someone comes to you, how do you get them started? What are the main people that will really benefit from working for you? Is there a certain type, or let's talk about how?
So I've been very fortunate because I am mostly referral. But the people that are kind of my high-level clients and the ones that are best served by working with me are, you know, people that have created significant success in some area, and they are wanting to create harmony, reach a higher version of themselves. And so that could look very different, whether it's create better health and keep the corporate job, but create harmony so that you're not, you know, unhappy or unhealthy. For some people, it could be monetizing an idea that they've had that they've always wanted to do and they don't know how. I help people with the how. And it's really, with my VIP clients, I work very, very, very closely with them. So it's rare that I don't get a text message daily from them.
Yeah.
And so it's people that are ready to step into a high level of coaching, a high commitment in terms of, you know, weekly coaching. If someone is looking for a coach, a healer, a teacher, a mentor that's going to tell them they are right and, you know, just kind of, I'm not a therapist, right?
Got it.
And so, I mean, it is extreme ownership of everything in your life. Yeah.
And so what's your process with them?
So I have a couple different kind of main ways I work with people. Many people start with me with a VIP day. So what that looks like is an intensive 6 to 8 hour day where we go into where are you stuck, where's the energy not moving, what do you want to create, and how do we get you there? So that's one big way that I start with people. I also have a 90-day intensive that's part group and part one-on-one called the Universal Key. And we really look at I fuse the universal law with some of the peak performance research and unlock a way of being, doing, and having differently and higher. And then I also do a lot of one-on-one VIP work with clients. I have a VIP year-long program, and then I also have a 4-month VIP. And then I do retreats as well.
When I upload this to YouTube, of course, I'm going to put the links in the description for how people can contact you and, you know, find out more, you know, follow you on social media. So, and I really enjoyed interviewing you and connecting with you, and this has just been so much fun. I look forward to seeing you again, and thanks.
Yeah, and thanks for having me in the jungle.
Yeah, very good.